Coming up on this episode of the Hockey Nuts, Steve and I get you caught up with all the news of the past week around the hockey world. The Olympic tournament is winding down, and we'll get you up to date with everything going on there. The NHL Trade Deadline is only days away, and the trades are already happening. We'll have the details of all this, plus the Minor League Hockey Minute, the NCAA Hockey Minute, and our picks of the week coming up next. This is the Hockey Nuts Podcast, Season 2, Episode 26, recorded on Friday, February 23rd, 2018. Trade deadline update and gold medal performances.
Shut up and sit down.
Held in by Pesci. Darting is Skinner. In deep, it's McGinn. McGinn with a power move. Shut down by Kincaid. McGinn gets the loose change back to the point. Slavin again backpedaling at the line. Marked by Coleman off a stick off Green wide. Getting to it is Skinner. Jeff Skinner negated by Green. McGinn darts in again. He lost his footing. He gets back up and he gets help from Stahl. Now Brock McGinn by Stahl. Pesci at the line. Can he trap the zone? It's still fought for. He did. What a job. Slavin with a shot tip. Side of the goal. They score! What a goal! That's hockey, baby! Jeff Skinner has tied it.
Shay has it off the boards, taken away by Drouin. Here's Pacioretty. Slides it wide of the empty net. Shay gets to it. That's the kind of season it's been for Max Pacioretty. The empty netters don't go in for him. Desharnais after it against Petrie. Hayes pass deflected. Bounces down with 5 seconds to go. Desharnais with a puck. Played across. And that's it. Montreal Canadiens break their winless streak. They've gone 6 games without a win. And Antti Niemi comes up with his 3rd win of the season for the Rangers, their 5th loss in a row.
Left bomb chips off the boards. Here's Connor McDavid. The shot blocked by Chara. McAvoy off the boards. Backus laterally for Heinen. Hot pass, but he angles the skate blade to get it into Klefbom's corner. Good read from Backus. Backus fights through the check of Kajula in front. Krejci scores! David Krejci puts the Bruins ahead with 1:04 to go. Hearts of Lions. The Bruins from 2 down.
Hello and welcome to Season 2, Episode 25 of the Hockey Nuts Podcast. Is it 25?
I'm going to say it's 26.
26.
26.
I need to update my notes.
I got it in my day timer. That's the only way I would be correct.
26.
Otherwise, I'd be wrong as hell.
You're right. I updated. See, I keep an overall episode number 2 in my show notes, which is 71.
Yeah.
But I updated that in my show notes, but I didn't do the episode number for the season. So Season 2, Episode 26, and overall Episode 71. So the Evgeny Malkin edition of the Hockey Nuts Podcast. All right, so anyway, my name is Wayne. I'm here with Steve once again. How's it going tonight, Steve?
I'm doing good, Wayne. As you know, I'm busted up and bloody following my team, but I'm bleeding blue, and I noticed that my blood is blue, and so I feel good about that.
That's good.
And number 2, every time I sit down to do this podcast with you, I feel a surge of excitement and energy that just beats any kind of doldrums I could be in. So I'm very happy to be on this podcast again.
Yeah, I certainly feel bad for you, but in a way, this season that the Rangers are apparently having now is going to separate the real fans from the bandwagon jumpers. So
I agree with you.
The real fans are going to still stay true to the team, and of course the bandwagon jumpers, they're going to jump on the Devils bandwagon or the Penguins bandwagon or whatever.
The Islanders bandwagon.
Choose your bandwagon, yeah.
Or they may go to Vegas or whatever, but they won't be Rangers. They won't be Rangers fans anymore, and good riddance.
Yep.
Those happy-go-lucky fans, and the Bruins have some too.
Oh yeah.
Hurricanes probably have some too.
Oh, yeah.
Those are the types of fans, the happy-go-lucky ones that are not seasoned, haven't been through the doldrums and the rough times, and sometimes the long periods of recovery that a team has to make as it changes its face and changes its style and its players and its everything retools completely.
Yep. And this day and age, with the salary cap and the rules, the way they're set up to give advantages to weaker teams and to give them a chance to get better, it's almost inevitable that at one point or another, your team, your favorite team, whoever it may be, is going to have to go through some rough times in order to enjoy the good times. So, and right now. Right now, unfortunately, it appears the Rangers are heading in that direction of a rough period because they're shedding players at this point. They've shed 2 over the past week, and they're rumored to be shedding more coming up. So, but we'll get into all of that at first. First things first, we do need to talk about how our teams have done over the past week. And, you want to go ahead and start with your Rangers? It's been a rough week. You might want to get the Band-Aid off and get it over with.
we can start with them, sure, and get it over with quickly. The last time we did a podcast was Thursday, the 15th of February. You had got back from your pond hockey outing, and we did it that night. And actually, as we did the podcast, the Rangers were playing against the Islanders.
Yep.
That night, and for the longest period of time, that game was 1-0. But the Islanders scored again, made it 2-0, and finally closed it out with a 3-0 win, a shutout. I believe Jarro Halak played in that game. I believe it was a shutout for Jarro Halak. I'm trying to go way back here in my memory banks, but I believe that's correct, and he played very, very well. The Rangers really never could really mount a scoring opportunity against him of any great. He just shut the door. He played very, very well, and the Rangers have had trouble scoring goals recently, as well as other things. But it was a game that the Islanders really outplayed us completely, and their crowd certainly, when you get playing, even in Brooklyn, they bring a rousing bunch of fans to the arena, and that's what happened that night. So let it suffice to say, it wasn't a terribly memorable game, Wayne. It was the New York Islanders, and they won.
Yep.
That's pretty much it. Then we played over the weekend against Ottawa, and of course that was a game where you and I are headed down to Charlotte to watch the Charlotte Checkers play. So we listened to it on the radio
on the drive
and
down. Yep.
It was a game where the Rangers had their chances, but again. Ottawa took control by scoring first in that game, and they're not playing the trap, I don't think, as much as maybe as they were, but they're definitely still trying to slow the pace of the game down, and they kept the lead over the Rangers the entire time, even though we fought back a couple times with some goals. Ottawa was the victor, 6-3. In the game against the Philadelphia Flyers on Sunday, we lost 7-4. But we were up in that game. We started out by scoring the first goal. I thought actually in that game we were going to shake off this losing streak that we had started. But again, the lack of our players that are starters that are injured just took its toll. And the Flyers are playing very, very good right now. They've jumped up into third place, and I have Philadelphia currently number 11 in our power rankings, which we'll get to a little later. They're playing very good. Yep. And I would say, actually, I think Philadelphia is going to make the playoffs, to be honest with you. But another loss, 7-4, a nationally televised game. And taking that out to last night, we played against Montreal. And really, I watched all these games except the Ottawa game. But the game last night, Wayne, was a game in which there were very few longtime familiar faces playing for us. Most of the people playing in that game last night weren't there on the roster at the start of the year.
Yep.
They've either been brought in from recent trades or they have come up from Hartford. And that's who was playing last night.
Yep.
Now, JT Miller was there. Matt Zuccarello played. There were a handful of Rangers, Jimmy Vesey, who have become a part of the team. But a lot of the players on each of the several of the lines were replacement players who were filling in for injured players, tweaks that they're doing to try and change the roster. So, last night was very evident. Even though Montreal did not play exceptionally well, I didn't feel, we couldn't score and had our chances too. But Montreal won that game. But I was very encouraged by the play of Alexander Georgiev, who in his last 9 games in Hartford was 8-0-1. Came up. He was the starter for Hartford as of late and came up to take the game last night in Montreal. His father flew over from Russia to watch the game at the Bell Center. And boy, I tell you, if he wasn't proud of his son last night, he played a heck of a hockey game. Tremendous game, and I'll say right off the bat, they don't need to bring Pavlik back. This guy, he played exceptionally well, has good reflexes, and is very patient. Was the word I was hearing from folks last night. Very patient in the net as far as his movements. He's not a quick shifting goalie. His positioning was very good. And he's extremely patient with the puck. So he made some tremendous saves. If you watched that game last night and you're a Rangers fan, you had to be encouraged. They still lost 3-1.
Yep.
But they played well. I was pleased with their play last night.
Yeah, and that was Georgiev's NHL debut last night, wasn't it?
That's right.
Yep.
Yeah, and his dad, I don't know whether the team got involved with that or not, but that's probably not a cheap plane ticket to fly from Moscow to Montreal.
At a moment's notice. Yeah.
But he was there. They showed him last night on MSG, and kudos to him. I'm sure he's probably, the pride of that man is probably huge.
Yep.
Last night and today.
Yep, certainly. Yeah, it's been a rough week. So the Rangers have now lost 5 in a row, going back to their last win was back on the 11th. So It's been a rough go of it, and they've since made some changes to their lineup. You know what I wish they would do this time of year in hockey? You know how in baseball, in September, usually the first weekend or week of September or September 1st or whatever date they choose, the Major League Baseball rosters expand from somewhere in the neighborhood of 25 players all the way up to 40. So they could bring up extra guys, keep them on the roster, and play them as needed. I'd like to see hockey do something like that. Obviously, you're not going to be able to dress that many guys, but the NHL roster is still locked at 23 players. And, of course, you dress 20, leaving 3 on the sidelines. I wouldn't mind seeing the NHL, in, let's say, March 1st, expand the rosters to, 28, 30 players. Just so we can get a look at some of the younger up-and-coming stars at the NHL level before the, I don't know what you thought of that idea, but just something that came to mind.
Yeah, I mean, you'd be including the players if the Rangers were healthy, a lot of whom we saw last night.
Yep.
That's what you'd be including. You'd be including a host of about 7 to 8 guys that hit the ice last night. Some of them got consistent minutes and got a lot of minutes. Particularly on defense, who would be included if you had expanded the roster to 30 players.
Yeah, so it'd be kind of interesting if they did something like that. Obviously, you wouldn't be able to dress that many because there's only so much room on the bench, but at least to be able to have them on the roster and be up with the club without having to take any kind of a penalty for sending them back down or whatnot,
right?
Would be a nice thing to see. So anyway. That's just a thought that came to mind. But anyway, all right, let's move on to the Carolina Hurricanes, who have had kind of a rough week of their own. As you remember it, as we left off last week, Carolina was heading into a period where they were playing basically all but or nothing but teams that they were fighting for playoff spots with. 2 games against New Jersey and a game against the Islanders. So a light week last week, but Carolina did not make much progress in their hopes for a playoff run. Going back to the 15th, they lost 5-2 at New Jersey. That was a game that they needed to do something to make a move in the playoff run anyway. And they failed to do so that night. They just, I believe it was, pretty sure it was Scott Darling in net for Carolina, and he didn't play all that well again. So that, it's very troubling what's been going on with Darling, and it's all mental. There's nothing physical there with him. And we've talked ad nauseum about his struggles this year, so no need to get into it now. But yeah, he struggled. Canes lost that game. And then they played the Islanders at the Island the next night. And because it was a back-to-back, the Islanders were off the night before. Canes came out flat, ended up losing that game 3-0. They never really got anything going in that game. Again, a team that the Canes are fighting with to get a playoff spot, and there's an opportunity there to grab some points, and they didn't do that. And then over the weekend, on the 18th, they played New Jersey at home this time. And late in the third, again, they're down 2-1, pulled their goalie, and they ended up scoring late in the third to tie the game up, and ended up losing the game in overtime, 3-2. So overall, just 1 point out of 3 games is not going to be enough if they're going to make the playoffs. Fortunately, though, teams that are surrounding them now, New Jersey's beginning to pull away because they've been playing very well, and they've added a player or two here going into the deadline. So I'm at this point pretty confident that New Jersey's going to nail a playoff spot down. But below them, they still got the Islanders that they're dealing with. They still got Columbus, and those teams have been kind of sputtering as well. So they're still only a point out of a playoff spot, I believe, at this point. We'll take a closer look at the standings here in a minute. But, right now, Carolina's, they can't afford any more of these weeks where they're only getting 1 point in 3 games.
Right.
If they're going to make the playoffs. So
agreed.
So we're all hoping here that they finally get the playoffs. Not so much to, not that they're going to do anything once they get there. I don't expect that, but just to break that streak of years of not making the playoffs. The new ownership's done so much for the fans already. That's pretty well documented. I think the team should reward everybody, the ownership and the fans, by making the playoffs at least this year. Don't need to do much. We don't have to have high expectations. Just get there and then work on taking the next step next year. That's kind of what they need to do at this point. So
I'm gonna say, Wayne, that I feel strongly that we still are going to see some more fading from the New Jersey Devils, and I don't know that they have completely locked down a playoff spot yet. Some of that is my own bias. I absolutely despise the New Jersey Devils. I can't stand them, and you know that. You know that about me. I hate them, and I think you would find that most Rangers fans and probably most Devils fans would say the same thing. There's 2 teams that have never made a trade until yesterday or today with Grabner. Yep. They don't work together. Yep. They just don't. They don't get along. I think if you talk to Glenn Sather or anybody at the Rangers brass, they would say they don't even pick up the phone and chat. And that includes the Lou Lamoriello era. Yeah. So Lou
Lamoriello was probably a big part of the divide between them, because he can be a salty guy anyway.
Sure, he put bonus money up for and wrote shit on blackboards and stuff, expressions
exactly
to take the Rangers down. I know about it. So but the Devils and the Rangers don't get along, here's my chance, and I'm taking it. I don't think the Devils are in the playoffs yet, and I think they're going to have a tough time getting there. Doesn't mean they won't make it, but that's just how I feel.
Yep. Yeah, and looking at the Carolina Hurricanes situation with them is, even though they've had a rough go of it, the team surrounding them, yes, New Jersey has pulled away a little bit, but Carolina still has 2 games against them before the end of the year. So there's still a shot that they can catch them. I'm just saying New Jersey's playing well right now, and if they continue to play as well as they have been, they will nail down a playoff spot before long. especially if Grabner goes in and helps them in any way.
Right.
But, the Carolina Hurricanes, curiously, have been off for the last 4 days, too. They haven't played a game since last Sunday. So they get back into action tonight, and I'll be watching that game. But it's going to be a tough one. It's against Pittsburgh, and Pittsburgh's white hot right now. So, All right. Let's go on to the Bruins, and they have had a very busy week over the past week. They had, going back to the 17th, they had a 6-1 loss at Vancouver, and then on the 19th, they flew up to Calgary, got an overtime win in a matinee game there. It was in Alberta. It was Family Day, I think is what it was. It was President's Day here in the U.S., so there were a couple matinee games here, too, in the U.S. So I was unable to watch that game. I did not watch the Vancouver game because, like you said earlier in the show, we went to Charlotte that night. I had full intentions of watching the Vancouver game when I got home after we got home from that game. But when we got home, I checked the score. It was 4-0 Vancouver. And I at that point, I'm like, you know what? Screw it. I'm not going to watch it. Besides, I had to work at 8 o'clock the next morning. So, and I wasn't going to deprive myself of sleep in hopes that the Boston Bruins make a miraculous comeback from a 4-0 deficit against Vancouver. And ultimately, they didn't really show much of any fight at all in that game. But the overtime win against Calgary was a nice one. I didn't see any of that one because I was at work. These matinee games I don't get to see a lot of because I am at work a lot of the time. So I didn't get to see that one, but it was I did see the highlights, and it was a nice way to win a game and give Calgary a point that they need at the same time, because it doesn't really matter when it's East versus West who gets that extra point, because it doesn't factor into the Eastern standings. So, and then the last game of the week, I did watch this one. It was a 3-2 win at Edmonton on the 20th. And I was kind of ticked off through most of that game, too, because the Bruins just couldn't score against Edmonton. And going into the third, they were down 2-0, and they just couldn't beat Talbot to save their lives. I mean, they grossly outshot Edmonton in that game. Edmonton, I don't know if they were sitting back or if they just didn't know how to handle the onslaught that the Bruins were pouring on in the third, but Bruins came all the way back to tie the game late in the third, and then they ended up winning it. I thought it was going to go into overtime, but with like a minute and change left in the third, the Bruins got the go-ahead goal from David Krejci, and they ended up holding on for the win. So the Bruins basically stole 2 points from Edmonton that night, as far as I'm concerned. And Edmonton was unable to get any. Not that it matters; they're not going anywhere in the playoffs anyway. So 4 points out of 6 for Boston. Certainly will take it because that Western Canada road trip, as you know, is not a fun one. And you'll find out when we talk about, when we look ahead at our teams, that the Rangers are heading out there next. So
yeah, that's right. They're on their way. As a matter of fact, they'll leave to play. I believe it's Wednesday night. They play in Vancouver, the 28th. 10 o'clock start time, so that they'll probably leave for Vancouver probably Monday.
Yep.
So, know that road trip very well. That's a tough one.
It certainly is. My dog heard a car door, and now is flipping out. All right, so let's take a look at the standings real quick before we move on to some of the other stories that happened over the week. And looking at the East right now, because we're going to do this every week here, pretty much for through the end of the season, because everything is so tight, and the standings seem to change drastically from day to day, particularly down near the bottom where the wild card teams are. But looking at these right now, the top threes have been pretty much staying the same. Right now in the Metro, it's still Washington with 75, Pittsburgh with 74, Philadelphia with 74. Those three have tightened up significantly, and Washington is very much in danger of falling out of the race, or falling out of the top spot for that division. In the Atlantic, Tampa Bay is still in first with 85 points, followed by Boston with 82 and Toronto with 81. Now Toronto is only a point behind, but Boston has 5 games in hand on Toronto.
Yeah.
So the gap is not as close as it looks. And then your 2 wild cards right now are New Jersey with 70 and Columbus with 65.
Right.
And then on the outside looking in is the Islanders also with 65, Carolina with 64, Florida with 60, Rangers with 59, Detroit 58, Montreal with 54, Ottawa with 52, and Buffalo with 47. Now, before we move to the West, let's talk about some of the goings-on around the East. And Washington is basically falling like a rock. They had, a 6, 7, 8-point lead at one point. It's down to 1.
Yeah.
And that is partly in thanks to Washington being 4-4-2 in their last 10, and they've lost 2 in a row. Pittsburgh is 8-1-1 in their last 10. They've won 5 in a row. And Philadelphia is 8-0-2 in their last 10, and they've won 4 in a row. So those 2 teams are charging right up the charts. Yeah, their position hasn't changed. Pittsburgh and Philly have been 2 and 3 for the last couple of weeks, but they're closing that gap fast, and Washington is very much in danger of falling out of that top 3. Now, they're still 5 points ahead of New Jersey, who's the next team in the Metro. So they're certainly not going to fall all the way into a wild card just yet. But with New Jersey getting Grabner, they've been playing fairly well, although their last 10 they've dropped to 4 and 6. So that slide that you're expecting may actually be happening.
Of course, the thing is there's no one below them who has taken the reins and really, stepped up on top of them and just, stomped on them down the chain of the teams.
That is true.
Out of the playoff picture. If the Islanders get hot or Carolina gets hot, or the Florida Panthers, if they get hot, which they're playing very well as recently, they're 7-3 in their last 10.
They are hot. The problem is they were so far behind they had to do some catching up before they can really challenge. And now they're within striking distance. So
if one of those teams can get it going and in their next 10 turn it to an 8-2, Columbus is really, I mean, they're definitely not in the playoff guarantee at all. So it'll be a dogfight for them. But as I said, the Islanders have faded. I mean, if you look at them in their last 20, 25 games, here's a team that was up. They were second place, first place for a while.
Yep.
And now here they are, the top wild card team. So they're definitely fading. But the question is, can they stop the bleeding and get it turned around and stay in the playoffs? They may.
Yep.
But we'll see.
Well, the way I see it, the wild card right now is 5 teams fighting for 2 spots. New Jersey, Columbus, Islanders, Carolina, Florida at this point. I'm putting Florida in the running now because New Jersey, Columbus, Islanders, Carolina, they're all playing 500 hockey or worse right now. And Florida is the only one that's playing better than 500 hockey out of those 5. So, Florida is the last place team of that group. They're 4 points behind Carolina, and they're 5 points behind the Islanders. But they're 2 games in hand on Carolina and 4 games in hand on the Islanders and 3 games in hand on both Columbus and New Jersey. So Florida's played fewer games. And if they play as well as they have been and grab those points that are available in those games in hand, they're right in the middle of that mix. Right.
They sure are.
Yep.
And let it suffice to say, too, that here's a young Devils team that is vulnerable. Okay, they are vulnerable. They are riding a lot of nights on the performance of their goaltender or 1 or 2 guys.
And lately, Taylor Hall.
It's not like you're not looking at a 3-lined team as you would be with Pittsburgh or Toronto or Boston, who has 3 solid lines out there. I'll talk to any Devils fan and put the 3 lines of Toronto up against the 3 lines of the Devils, and you know who has the better 3 lines.
Oh yeah,
you're looking at a few players. So and they've made it work thus far. We'll see what happens.
Yeah, and Schneider's due to come back anytime now. He's skating again, so we'll see what happens with Grabner and Schneider both joining that team. to see if that makes a difference. It should on paper, but who knows? All right, let's take a look at the West. In the Central, you've got Nashville at 83, Winnipeg at 79, Dallas at 74. And in the Pacific, you've got Vegas at 84, San Jose at 74, Anaheim at 73. And in your wild cards are Minnesota with 73, St. Louis with 72. And on the outside looking in is L.A. with 71, Calgary with 71, Colorado 69, Chicago 60, Edmonton 54, Vancouver 53, Arizona 44. The first thing I noticed there with the Western is the separation that's beginning to happen in the Central top three. You got you got a 4-point drop from Nashville to Winnipeg, and then another 5-point drop down to Dallas. A couple of weeks ago, those teams were all within a point or two of each other.
Right.
So, and all three are still playing very well. They're just, they're not all, I still expect all three of them to ultimately make the playoffs, although Dallas is probably a 4-game losing streak away from falling out. So,
Dallas is the shaky one of those three. Yeah. And then, go ahead. I'm sorry.
Nope. And then in the Pacific, there's been pretty much a separation between Vegas and everybody else all along, and that really hasn't changed. I think there was as big as 13 or 14 points at one point. It is down to 10. But a 10-point lead this late in the season is almost insurmountable.
Right.
So Vegas will make the playoffs. There's no doubt about that.
That's right.
And then San Jose and Anaheim are in the fights for their lives. They're bouncing. Those two teams are bouncing anywhere from second place in their division all the way to outside the playoffs over the past couple of weeks. So, it's all over the place in that division.
But both of those teams are playing up to par with Vegas. Both San Jose and Anaheim have played very well as of late.
Yep.
If you consider the opponents and all of that, I think I'd give them the nod. Anaheim is coming back from where they were, and we knew they would be hot and contesting for a playoff spot.
Yeah, they've won 4 in a row.
And I really think, Wayne, I think it could be a 4-4 in this conference, and it could turn out that way in the Eastern Conference as well if Florida continues their play. But it's much more possible here, naturally, of course, if you look at the standings. And I think it's highly possible that the Kings or Calgary, one of those two teams, will make. And I don't know if it's Minnesota who falls out or St. Louis, or, it's going to come that Dallas falls out, but
it's going to come down to the final weekend because both LA and Calgary earlier this week at one point or another have been in a playoff spot.
That's right.
These teams, these 5 teams from San Jose, Anaheim, Minnesota, St. Louis, Los Angeles, Calgary, and to some extent Colorado have been in and out of the playoffs. That whole group has been in and out of the playoffs for the last month.
That's right.
And that's going to continue right down to the final days of the season. So that'll be fun to watch. But
I just see the Kings, a veteran team. It wouldn't surprise me at all that they sneak in, and they already have it in their pedigree. They could finish 8th and win the Stanley Cup. They know how to do it. So, but Calgary is really, you have to say, a scrappy veteran team as well. So, either one of those teams wouldn't surprise me at all if they make it, and a team like St. Louis fall out.
One way or another, there's going to be one or more really good teams that misses the playoffs in the West.
Yep.
Either way you look at it. All right. Let's talk about some of the stories that have gone on over the past week. And it's been very busy off the ice. A lot of transactions, as expected, with trade deadline coming up on Monday. So our next show that we record, we'll be recapping all of the transactions that went down on trade deadline day. But we've had a bunch already to talk about, so we'll get into those transactions. And then there's also been a whole lot of injuries this week. And that has affected some of the transactions, as you'll find out. All right, let's first start talking about the Michael Grabner trade because we've alluded to it a couple of times already in the show. And here are the details. Grabner was traded to the Devils by the Rangers on Thursday. That's yesterday. It's the first trade ever between the Metropolitan Division rivals since New Jersey entered the NHL in 82-83. The 30-year-old forward is in his final season of a 2-year contract and will be an unrestricted free agent on July 1st unless he signs ahead of that deadline. New York will receive defenseman prospect Yegor Rykov and a second-round pick in the 2018 NHL Draft. Grabner had 31 points in 59 games so far this season, but 25 of those points are goals. He was scratched from a 3-1 loss at the Canadiens on Thursday, so they must have known about the trade going into that game. He has 244 points in 532 games in his career during his 9 years with the Rangers, Maple Leafs, Islanders, and Canucks. He has scored at least 20 goals 4 different times. Rykov, who's a 20-year-old defense prospect, he was a fifth-round pick in the 2016 NHL Draft. He's currently playing in the Continental Hockey League with SKA, which is one of the better teams in that league.
And I'll tell you that I watched the entire game and even into the post of the game with Montreal last night, and it was not announced that Michael Grabner would be traded all the way up until the end of that broadcast. So this is something that happened after 10 o'clock.
Yeah, it didn't go live. It didn't start coming across the Twitter feed until after that game was over.
Yeah.
That's when Twitter started firing up about this trade. So,
yeah.
But curiously, I noticed the NHL was reporting earlier tonight that Rick Nash is also a healthy scratch tonight for the Rangers.
Well, he was last night as well, and I think that what you can read into that, Wayne, is if you're going to trade a guy like Rick Nash, and he's probably going to go as a rental, you don't want him to be hurt playing in a game like this. So they're going to make him a healthy scratch. He might not play for the Rangers for the foreseeable future to avoid damaging his goods.
Well, the fact that he's not playing tonight would lead me to believe too. On top of that, you don't want to hurt him, but there must be something imminent with him that they probably couldn't quite nail it down last night, and they're revisiting today. But I would expect, well, definitely before Monday, because that's the deadline. That's something that they're definitely shopping Rick Nash around. So stay tuned to that. All right, let's talk about a little Bruins players. Frank Vatrano was traded to the Florida Panthers by the Boston Bruins on Thursday. Boston received a third-round pick in the 2018 NHL Draft. Vatrano, a 23-year-old forward, scored 2 goals in 25 games with the Bruins this season. He's not played in 5 of the past 6 games because of a lower body injury and was a healthy scratch for most of this season. Signed to an entry-level contract as a free agent by the Bruins on March 30th, 2015. Vatrano has 31 points in 108 NHL games. And he never really developed, and of course, he really didn't develop mostly because he wasn't getting the playing time. But Bruins fans everywhere got really excited when he was putting up the numbers that he was putting up in Providence. I don't know if you remember, but the season before he got, or actually the beginning of, it was either last season or the season before now, I can't remember. He played 36 games in Providence, scored 36 goals.
Mm-hmm.
So he's very similar in terms of what numbers he puts up. He's very similar to Grabner in that case. He's very goal-heavy on his points.
Right.
A lot more goals than assists. And he's a speedy player. He's a sniper. He's got a good, fast, quick release on his shot. He's going to be a nice asset for Florida to have. And unfortunately, he became a victim of all the prospects that the Bruins had. They had Jake DeBrusk come up, Anders Bjork, and all of the prospects that just appeared to be NHL ready at this season on top of everything else. And it just kind of knocked him down the depth chart until there was no longer a spot for him on the team.
Right.
So the Bruins traded, away a player that's really a point of strength for them. They have an extra forwards that they basically don't need. And Florida Panthers got themselves a good little player there. I don't expect him to go out and score 40 goals in an AHL season anytime soon, but he'll be a nice piece for them to have going down the stretch with Florida trying to make the playoffs. And for their trouble, the Bruins get a third-round draft pick, so we'll take that. They'll go out and get another Patrice Bergeron in the draft.
Yeah. Oh.
Actually, Bergeron was a second-round pick, so yeah.
It can't be Patrice Bergeron.
I like to remind everybody that every team in the NHL passed on Bergeron at least once.
Yeah.
All right, Tobias Ryder, forward, and goalie Scott Wedgwood were traded to the Kings by the Coyotes for goalie Darcy Kemper on Wednesday. Ryder has 19 points in 58 games with the Coyotes this season after signing a 2-year contract with Arizona on October 4th, 2016. He is scheduled to become a free agent, a restricted free agent on July 1st. Ryder had 111 points in 292 games with the Coyotes. Coyotes turn around and sign Kemper to a 2-year contract on Thursday. He could have become an unrestricted free agent on July 1st. Kemper was 10-1-3 with a 2.1 goals against average and a .932 save percentage, and 3 shutouts in 19 games backing up Jonathan Quick for the Kings this season.
Okay.
Those are good numbers.
I'm going to stop you, Wayne, right there. On its face, what do you think of that trade?
Well, I see the Coyotes getting themselves prepped for next year. They need you need to have, this day and age, you need to have 2 NHL quality decent goalies. Yep. Clearly, they didn't think Wedgwood could fit that bill. But the numbers that Kemper put up this year, those are good numbers. Yeah, it's in a backup role. But they already have Antti Ranta, and I'm not sure if his contract is up this year or not, but they already have him, and now they have Kemper. They're setting themselves up at least for, if not a top-notch goaltending team, but at least a solid one anyway.
I think it's a great trade for the Coyotes. Now, I don't know about Tobias Ryder, or is it Reeder? I'm not sure.
I've heard it pronounced Ryder by a lot of the press.
I'm not sure of his numbers this year, but on its face, I look at that, and Darcy Kemper is going to do real well in Phoenix, I think, in Arizona.
Yep.
And I think they've just made a great trade. Now they have a backup goalie who's reliable.
Yep.
And didn't Darcy Kemper, didn't he play with Minnesota? I think.
I think so. Yeah.
I think he came from the Wild.
Very briefly. Yeah.
And he played well there too.
Yep.
So they've got a seasoned guy coming into the net as a backup goalie, and really didn't give up the house to get him.
Yeah, they kind of have a 1 and 1A kind of setup there in Phoenix now, and it's good because both goalies are kind of untested, unproven, and you can throw them in there and just let them duke it out, and whichever one comes out playing better, play the hot hand, so to speak.
That's right. So I saw that trade and I was like, you know what, I'm surprised the Kings made that trade, but. More power to Arizona. They really got the better of that deal, in my opinion.
Yep, I think the Kings did it in order to get a more Ryder. From what I understand, is I don't remember recalling him play, but from what I understand, he's a fast player, and LA apparently was looking for more speed. So pretty much in this case, they're adding Ryder for their playoff run. And downgraded a little bit in goaltending in order to get there, and putting all their eggs in Quick's basket. We'll put it that way.
Right.
So if Quick gets hurt now, LA is in deep trouble.
They really are, and that's another great point. Here comes a team fighting for their playoff lives, and they just traded away a valuable commodity.
Yep.
A backup goalie who can get you through 10 or 15, 20 games if he has to. And I guess my bottom line is, Wayne, I don't know why LA made that trade. I think that's a stupid trade. I really don't see now.
Well, it does make them deeper at the forward position. So there's that.
Yeah.
But yeah, it does open up the it is a risk on LA's part. Yeah, they're going to have a deeper core of forwards. But the whole Quick getting hurt situation could blow up in their face if Quick gets hurt. So I guess that's a choice you got to make as a GM. If you don't feel you're deep enough at one area, you got to sacrifice at another area in order to shore up that. So that's essentially what they did. They sacrificed a little bit goaltending in order to shore up a problem spot at forward.
And with Merritt departing, they may feel like Tobias Ryder can fit in there and get him some points. And he's got 8 goals and 11 assists. I'm looking at his numbers.
Yep.
So he maybe they're looking at it that way. But I really think that Arizona got a really good deal on that trade.
Yeah, long term, I think Arizona is going to turn out the winner. But in the short term, this helps LA in their hopes for making the playoffs. Yep. So it's the classic short term, long term dilemma.
All right.
All right, the next one is actually a pretty minor trade, so we won't spend a whole lot of time on it. But Jakub Jarabek was traded to Washington by the Montreal Canadiens for a 5th-round pick in the 2019 draft on Wednesday. 26-year-old rookie defenseman from the Czech Republic has 4 points in 25 NHL games. He signed a 1-year entry-level contract with the Canadiens on May 1st and can become an unrestricted free agent on July 1st. So this one is basically adding more depth for the Capitals for a playoff run. You know, the Bruins proved last year that you can't have too many defensemen that can play at the NHL level. So Washington Capitals obviously did this to help give them more depth at D. But yeah, 26-year-old rookie, the fact that Jerabek is a rookie at 26 just shows he did play. I looked him up. He played like 9 years over in Europe, most in the Czech League, and I think last year was in the KHL before coming over here. So yeah, I don't expect to see him play a lot for Washington. Like I said, he'll be their number 5 or number 6 defenseman unless injuries become a major factor for them. But it's a depth move. All right, let's talk about another Rangers trade. Actually, it's a Bruins trade too. Nick Holden was traded to the Bruins by the Rangers on Tuesday. Now, these two teams have a long history of dealing together.
Long history working together.
Yes. The Bruins bolstered their depth by sending their third-round pick in the 2018 NHL draft and 24-year-old minor league defenseman Rob O'Gara for Holden, a lefty defenseman who's 30 years old and had 12 points in 55 games with the Rangers this season. Holden had 46 points in 135 games with the Rangers after they acquired him in a trade with the Colorado Avalanche back in June of 2016. He has 107 points in 356 NHL games and become an unrestricted free agent July 1. Now, in the Bruins' perspective, because I know you're going to give me your Rangers' perspective, this was a move. Right. Boston is a little bit short-handed on left-shot defensemen. And, of course, they've been shopping around for exactly that, a left-shot defenseman. And Nick Holden will plug a hole that the Bruins have on the left side as they head towards the playoffs. And at the same time, it gives them an additional NHL-ready, with playoff experience, defensemen that they can have for the playoff run, because they don't want this year to happen to them what happened last year. And if you remember last year, Bruins fans remember it well, 2 of their top 6 defensemen got hurt in the last game or 2 of the regular season. And then right away in the first round of the playoffs against Ottawa, in games 1 and 2, they lost 2 more of their top 6 defensemen. So they were down to essentially just 2 of their original top 6 defensemen and plugged it in with 3 minor leaguers and Charlie McAvoy to try to Band-Aid themselves through the playoffs. And ultimately, as far as I'm concerned, it ultimately cost them the series with the Ottawa Senators last year. So by adding Holden, they added Posma during the offseason going into this season, and he's been pretty much in the press box most of the year as their 7th defenseman. Nick Holden gives them 8 NHL-ready defensemen. I think the Bruins are ready to go this year in playoffs, and they probably won't. Now, Holden's not going to be in the press box. He's going to play. Somebody else is going to end up sitting out, because he was playing on the top pairing in New York, wasn't he, before he got traded with McDonough?
Well, with the injuries and stuff, maybe, but not when they were healthy.
Well, no, it would be Shattenkirk and McDonough when everyone's healthy, but since Shattenkirk,
no, he was a top 6 defenseman, for sure with us. I think Mark Stahl and Brady Shea were in the top 4, along with Shattenkirk and
that is true.
McDonough.
Yeah. Well, no, and I don't expect Holden to be a top 4 guy for Boston either, but he may find himself there because Bruins are still a little short on left shot defensemen. And he is one.
I tell you, Holden has no fear of shooting the puck. He does pass it, but if they're on the power play or something, he shoots. He takes the shot. He doesn't hesitate.
Yep.
Which is a good thing. When you watch the Rangers play, they overpass sometimes. Not if the puck went to Nick Holden.
Yep. Yeah, and then in return, the Bruins give up one of their minor league prospects, Rob O'Gara, which quite frankly, there's really little room for him on the Bruins roster, given how deep it is now at this point. So he wasn't going to get anywhere, so they went ahead and moved him to a team that can probably use him. And the Rangers actually did put him in there right away last night. So
he played. He played last night. Thomas Plekanec scored on him in the first period, but He's from Yale. Is that right?
Yeah, that could be. I don't have that information in front of me, but yeah.
I think he played. I don't know. I mean, I could be wrong on that, but I think he's from Yale, and he's 24, so he may have been a part of their recent national championship. I don't know, but he is from Massapequa.
Yep.
So he is going home, and we'll see how he turns out. There'll be some people watching him, and we'll see how it goes. He will right now get a prominent role and get to play some minutes.
Yeah, he'll get to play some time here the rest of this season, so they get a good long look at him before they head into the off season. But at the same time, the Rangers get yet another draft pick, so they've picked up a couple of draft picks in these trades that they've made. And this year's draft is expected to be a very deep one, so provided that they make smart picks with this, in a couple of years, the Rangers are going to have some pretty good prospects in their system, which is something they're lacking. So,
right.
All right, let's move on to the next one. Eric Goodbranson signed a 3-year, $12 million contract with the Canucks on Tuesday. It has an average annual value of $4 million. The 26-year-old defenseman could have become an unrestricted free agent on July 1st. Goodbranson has 4 points in 41 games this season and 53 points in 380 games with the Panthers and Canucks. He's a shutdown guy, $4 million a year, and you're only getting 4 points. He's your shutdown defenseman, and they clearly are happy with how he's doing, so they signed him. No need to dwell on this one too much. Goalie Peter Mrazek was traded to the Flyers by the Red Wings on Monday for a conditional 4th-round pick in the 2018 NHL Draft and a conditional 3rd-round pick in the 2019 NHL Draft. Mrazek is 8-7-3 with a 2.89 goals against average and .910 save percentage in 22 games this season. In the past week, the Flyers lost their top 2 goalies, Brian Elliott and Michael Neuwirth, to injury. Alex Lyon, who was recalled from Lehigh Valley of the American Hockey League after Elliott was injured during a shootout at the Coyotes on February 10th, relieved Neuwirth against the Rangers. He made 25 saves on 26 shots for his first NHL win, but it was the 4th game in the league for the 25-year-old rookie. And the reason that they made this trade, Hextall came flat out and said, "Our players have worked hard for a long time, and I don't think it was fair not to have a proven NHL goaltender for this team," Hextall said. That's the reason we acted. I'm
going to stop.
Yep, go ahead.
Okay, now you look at this trade on its face. Yep. What are your feelings? I'm going to go right into the same one we talked about earlier.
Yep, it's a Band-Aid move for the Flyers. I mean, they need an NHL proven goalie. Hextall said it best.
Right.
So they had to go out and get one. If Elliott and Neuwirth, or even if only one of them got hurt and the other one was still healthy, they're not making this move.
Right. I agree.
They went out there and made this move, and the fact that the draft picks were all conditional tells you that they couldn't settle in on what Mrazek's value is overall, because it's all the conditions. I looked at them are all based on how much Mrazek contributes to the Flyers between now and the end of the season. So right. the more Mrazek contributes, the better these picks get for the Red Wings.
Right, and I tell you, I've watched Mrazek play a fair amount over the last couple of years, and I've seen him when he's been red hot.
Yep,
he's played it last year. He played very well for a Detroit Red Wings team that contested for the playoffs for a while.
Yep,
they were looking at another season, going to the playoffs again until virtually the bitter end.
Yeah, in the last several years, Mrazek and Jimmy Howard, the other goalie in Detroit, have been pretty much splitting time in the pipes, and Detroit's pretty much been going whichever one is playing better at the moment.
That's right.
And this season, it's been Howard though. But
I agree. And Detroit is making their move up the charts again this year.
Yep.
They're at 58 points now. They're a point behind the Rangers. Which is not saying much with the way the Rangers are playing right now. They are making a move to a 65-point plateau that they need to get to crack the playoff barrier. Here's my point again, Wayne. Another very good backup goalie, very capable.
Yep.
Here's a team headed for the playoffs, possibly getting in there, making a playoff run, just as we talked about earlier with Darcy Kemper. Why is Detroit making this trade? I looked at it. There's probably a plethora of reasons. But if I'm Jeff Blashill, now I'm looking at I've got my starting goalie position is doing well. But here's a guy that if my guy goes down, here's a guy that can stand very easily and take the role of backup goalie, which is a valuable position on your hockey team now. And you know that. If you're going to make a playoff run, you've got to have a good backup goalie.
Well, and one of those three goalies, Mrazek, Elliott, or Neuwirth, is going to go after the season. They're not going to keep all three going into next year. So they'll either trade or buy out one of them.
Right.
Because, right now they have three NHL goalies, which is not a bad thing to have going into the playoffs. And the Flyers also have two very good prospects in their prospect pool in terms of goaltending. So all these three guys have to do is just kind of ride out the storm until these goaltending prospects, one of them, they've got Carter Hart, which basically owned the nets for the Canadians in the World Juniors this past winter. And then they've got I can't remember his name, but I know he's from Sweden, Swedish goaltender that's coming up through the ranks. And both are very, very highly rated prospects. So they're just
excellent trade for Philadelphia.
Yeah,
excellent trade for Philadelphia.
They're just needing a Band-Aid to get them through to until their goaltending issue is solved.
Right.
At this point,
I think Philadelphia got hands down got the better of that deal. So both that trade and the Darcy Kemper trade they might be short-term trades, but they shore up their goaltending situation very, very nicely.
Yep. It shores up big-time problems that they currently have. All right, let's move on to the next one. Defenseman Michael Kempny was traded to the Capitals on Monday by the Blackhawks for a conditional third-round pick in the 2018 NHL Draft. Kempny, an undrafted free agent who agreed to terms on a one-year contract with the Blackhawks on May 24, 2016, has 15 points in 81 NHL games. He has 7 points and is a plus 13 in 31 games this season. That's not bad, plus 13 for Chicago, given their struggles. Chicago will receive the hire of Washington's own third-round draft pick or the third-round draft pick of the Toronto Maple Leafs. Washington, which probably will end up well, I don't know. Depends on Washington and Toronto ends up higher in the standings. Washington acquired the Toronto draft pick from New Jersey Devils as part of the Marcus Johansson trade back on July 2nd of 2017. So here the Capitals are adding yet another defenseman to their pool. So they're loading up on depth defensemen at this point, getting ready for a playoff run. Michael Backlund signed a 6-year, $32.1 million contract with the Flames on Friday. It has an average annual value of $5.35 million. The 28-year-old forward could have become an unrestricted free agent on July 1st. Backlund has 34 points in 58 games this year and 262 points in 519 games with Calgary, which selected him with the 24th overall pick in the 2007 NHL Draft. So there's another potential free agent falling off the pool. And I think we're going to see a few of these between now and trade deadline day, players signing extensions. It's going to make this summer's free agent day kind of boring with all these players signing before they're even available.
Right, but Calgary had to do that. Don't you agree? I mean, that's a good signing.
Yep. Yeah, they
a very good signing.
He's a core player for them, and that's a pretty cap friendly number,
Absolutely.
$5.35 million.
Yeah.
All right, another trade. Nikita Shoshnikov was traded to the St. Louis Blues by Toronto Maple Leafs on Thursday for a fourth-round pick in the 2019 NHL Draft. The 24-year-old forward had no points in 3 games with the Maple Leafs this season. He had 17 points in 19 games with Toronto in the American Hockey League. The Blues said Shoshnikov will report to St. Louis in 7 to 10 days after he attained a U.S. visa and will be added to the roster when he's cleared by the doctors. Maple Leafs were at the maximum number of NHL contracts before the trade, which is 50 is the maximum number of contracts. Signed by the Maple Leafs to a 3-year entry-level contract on March 20th, 2015, Shoshnikov has 14 points in 70 NHL games. So this, to me, was just Toronto just trying to get themselves free of that 50 contract limit, because that really handcuffs them in terms of being able to make trades between now and trade deadline day. Because the NHL rules state that you can only have 50 contracts. They were at that 50 number and getting rid of Astakhov, which is a player they haven't been using much anyway, gets them out from under that. They're still real tight against it, so they can't do any like 3-for-1 types of player trades because they still have to stay under 50.
Right.
All right, the Islanders agreed to terms with Josh Bailey on a 6-year contract. And that was actually earlier today. Financial terms were not disclosed. However, CapFriendly.com and TSN are both reporting $5 million per year. The 28-year-old forward is in the final season of a 5-year contract and could have become an unrestricted free agent on July 1st. Bailey has 62 points in 58 games this season, is third on the Islanders in scoring, 3 points behind Matthew Barzal and 2 behind John Tavares. Bailey has set NHL career high in points and assists and is 1 goal from his career high set in 2009-10. He also played in the NHL All-Star Game for the first time this season. So kudos to him and the Islanders for coming to a nice cap-friendly $5 million per year deal. Now, assuming Bailey continues to play at this pace, this will turn out to be a great deal for the Islanders, in my opinion.
Mm-hmm. I agree.
So, all right. Now, that is all the trades I've got as of the time of this recording anyway, unless you have some others that we missed.
No, we got them as of up to the minute, so to speak.
Yep. Okay. Let's move on to injuries then. And we'll have to fly through these because we're running a little long today. Goaltenders, Carey Price of the Montreal Canadiens will be out indefinitely because of a concussion. He was injured on Tuesday when he was struck in the mask by a shot by Flyers defenseman Shane Gostisbehere in the second period of a 3-2 overtime loss. Price remained in the game. Price, who's 15, 22, and 6 with a 2.98 goals against average and .904 save percentage, is 2-8-4 with an .889 save percentage in his past 14 games. And he's already missed 10 games this year with a lower body injury. So he'll be day-to-day with a concussion. They're not saying when he's going to come back because concussions you just don't know. It could be a week. It could be a month. You don't know. In the meantime, Niemi and Lindgren will be the goalies for Montreal. And another Montreal injury update, Shay Webber is going to be out for the rest of the season because of a foot injury that is going to require surgery. Yep. The 32-year-old defenseman has a tendon tear in his left foot. He's missed the last 26 games and last played on December 16th against the Ottawa Senators. He was dealing with the injury earlier in the year, missing 6 games from November 21st to 30th. He was shut down earlier this week from skating, and Coach Claude Julien said he wouldn't return to the lineup until he's 100%. He is, though, expected to make a full recovery and should be ready for the start of training camp next year. So looked like he was trying to play through it, but ultimately it wasn't repairing itself. So they decided to shut him down for the year, making that Subban look. Yeah.
Yeah, they're not going to make the playoffs, so probably a smart move.
And this is making that Subban trade look even better for Nashville at this point.
Right.
All right, Anders Bjork is going to miss the remainder of the season for the Bruins after having surgery on his left shoulder on Tuesday. He missed the past 10 games after he was injured in the 3-1 loss against Anaheim on January 30th. He's expected to need 6 months to recover. Selected by Boston in the 5th round of the 2014 NHL Draft, Bjork has 12 points in 30 games so far this season. So I kind of knew that was coming. He hasn't been playing, and quite frankly, at the way they're playing now, they don't really need him at this point, so might as well shut him down. All right, Buffalo Sabres defenseman Jake McCabe will miss the rest of the season because of a shoulder injury. He's scheduled to have surgery, and the estimated recovery time is 4 to 6 months. Sounds like similar to Bjork. He had thumb surgery on February 7th. McCabe left in the second period of a 4-3 overtime loss to the Anaheim Ducks, so same team. Same team hurt him as Bjork. He has 12 points and averages 19:30 of ice time in 53 games. So another good player being shut down by their team that's not going to make the playoffs. All right, Flyers forward Wayne Simmons will be out 2 to 3 weeks with an upper body injury. He was injured during a 7-4 win against the Rangers on Sunday. Simmons has 37 points, including 4 game-winning goals in 59 games this season. He's the 5th straight season he's scored at least 20 goals. And he ranks 5th in the NHL with 10 power play goals. He scores a lot of overtime and shootout goals, too.
Right.
So that's going to be a tough loss for Philly as they struggle to maintain a playoff spot.
All right.
All right. 2 injuries for the Avalanche. Defenseman Eric Johnson and Anton Lindholm each are going to be out indefinitely with upper body injury. They were injured in a 4-2 loss to the Oilers on Sunday. Lindholm left with 3:40 remaining in the second, and Johnson needed to be helped off the ice at 1:59 of the third. Johnson is Colorado's most experienced defenseman and averages 25 minutes and 43 seconds of ice time per game. He has 22 points in 56 games this year. Lindholm, a 23-year-old rookie, has 3 assists in 43 games. So tough losses for Colorado, considering they're battling for a playoff spot.
Yes.
All right, in Columbus, forward Nick Foligno, and I believe he's still their captain, is expected to miss 1 to 2 weeks because of a lower body injury sustained on Sunday. He left a 5-2 loss to the Penguins late in the second period and did not return after playing 1 shift in the third. Forward Cam Atkinson said after the game it appeared Penguins forward Connor Sherry's skate made contact with Foligno. It looked like the skate went right through his sock, Atkinson told The Athletic. It didn't cut him, but I'm not sure what the result is with that. Hopefully not too bad, but that's the way it is right now. Foligno has 26 points in 59 games with the Blue Jackets. And just a couple more injuries. Then these are, Philadelphia Flyers goalie Michael Neuwirth sustained a lower body injury in the first period, didn't return for the second against the Rangers at Madison Square Garden on Sunday. Neuwirth played the entire first period, made 11 saves on 14 shots. He was replaced by Alex Lyon. Flyers are already playing without Brian Elliott, who had a surgery on a core muscle injury on Tuesday and will be ruled out 5 to 6 weeks. So that talks to the injury, and of course those 2 injuries made it necessary for the Flyers to go out and get Peter Mrazek.
Mm-hmm.
And then last night, Toronto Maple Leafs center Austin Matthews got hurt and is now day-to-day with a shoulder injury. Matthews left with 1:06 remaining in the third of the shootout win against the Islanders. He scored with 3:29 remaining to tie the game 3-3. Matthews leads Toronto in scoring with 50 points in 53 games. He was a Calder Trophy winner in the 2016-17 season, and of course was the number 1 overall pick, as everybody already knows. So initial reports last night, they didn't announce his status till this afternoon. Initial reports last night were this could have been a long-term injury, but being day-to-day, I'm sure is good news to Maple Leafs fans.
Oh, absolutely.
Because they're going to need
There
him.
goes their playoff hopes.
Yeah, pretty much.
They'll make the playoffs, but yeah, they'll be a flash in the pan without Austin Matthews.
Yep. They need him, whether they like it or not. So, all right. And as far as suspensions and fines this week, I only had one. Miles Wood, New Jersey Devils forward, was suspended for 2 games without pay for boarding Tampa Bay Lightning forward Vladislav Namestnikov during NHL game number 898 in Tampa on Saturday, February 17th. The Department of Player Safety announced on Sunday the incident occurred at 4:54 of the second period. Wood was assessed minor penalties for boarding and roughing on the play. He'll forfeit $9,946.24. So I saw the play, and it was definitely a penalty. Probably would have warranted a major on the spot rather than a minor for most referees anyway. Mm-hmm. But he did only end up getting the double minor. And Miles Wood, and I don't know much about his his history. I know he didn't have any previous history as far as that goes because I watched the video and they specifically said that. But I don't know about you, but my experience, guys that wear number 44 on the jersey are usually guys that are tough guys.
Yeah, and John Riggins.
I think this is I think this is no exception. So it always seems that way.
That's right. I agree with you.
So and that's the number that Miles Wood wears. So
right.
Not that made a difference in the play, but no, it was a clear hit from behind. He had him lined up half the width of the rink, and he never let up, even though the player had his back to him. So yeah, tough hit, and probably New Jersey or Tampa Bay wanted more. Tampa Bay fans would want more from that hit because it was pretty brutal looking. Yeah. All right. As far as some of the others,
suspension I saw.
That's the only one I saw
That's
too.
The only one I saw.
Yep. Everybody's trying to behave now, getting close to the playoffs. Nobody wants to get knocked out for a long period of time heading into the playoffs. All right. Let's look on to some of the other interesting stories that we saw over the past week. First and foremost, I saw a story. Seattle will begin a season ticket drive in its effort to become an NHL expansion team. starting on March 1st at 10 a.m., you will be able to make your deposit for season tickets. Mayor Jenny Durkin wrote on a Twitter on Tuesday. Las Vegas actually started its season ticket drive on February 10th, 2015, and it was ultimately awarded an NHL team on June 22nd, 2016. So I wonder why it would take 18 months to go from a season ticket drive to having a team. You would think it'd go a little faster than that, don't you think?
I agree. I agree with you. I'm not sure. I'm not sure about that one.
Yeah. So I included that timeline in there just to put Seattle's. I don't know if we have any fans listening in Seattle or not, but put things in perspective a little bit. That it's there's a season ticket drive going on right now, but doesn't mean they're going to have a team in the fall. We'll put it that way.
That's right. The other side of it is, too, Seattle's been prominently mentioned as an expansion team for the NHL for a number of years.
Yep.
Going way back to 2009, 2010, 2011. They've been trying their best to get an NHL expansion team.
Yep.
So
I think they deserve it. They have a major junior team in the Western Hockey League based there. They've got hockey exists there. Hell, the city even has at least one Stanley Cup championship that I know of. Of course, it's from like 1915 or 1912 or something like that. But
is it the Seattle Americans?
The Seattle Metropolitans have
the
a Stanley
Seattle
Cup.
Metropolitans. That's it.
Yeah, they have a Stanley Cup championship. So.
Yep.
But their arena is not going to be ready until the 2020-2021 season. So that would be the earliest that they'll be able to actually play games in Seattle. But it looks like they're working hard to get to that point, that as soon as the arena is ready to go ahead and start playing. All right, and another story I had is the actually it should be under the honors and milestones. I put it under the wrong section, but we'll do it anyway. New Jersey Devils center Nico Hischier, Arizona Coyotes goaltender Antti Raanta, and Winnipeg Jets Mark Scheifele have been awarded the NHL's 3 stars for the week ending February 18th. And if you want to go into details on how those players did, there's an article right on NHL.com. I won't go into it here. All right, another story. I don't know if you saw this one, but if you haven't, you need to follow this link because it is hilarious, and I'll probably include the audio for this. Brent Burns and Joe Thornton have done another commercial. And basically the commercial, you got to see it to see how funny it is. Basically it shows them in full uniform sitting at a restaurant having wine, and they're cheering on other people that are in the restaurant. And it's hilarious. They're making wine jokes, cheese jokes, all kinds of it's hilarious. So I've included the link in the show notes. You've got to go watch this when you get a chance. I'm going to include audio. I'm going to insert it right here in the podcast, and we'll it'll be funny. It'll be funny to listen to. So
you'll notice hints of black fruits, lilac, leather, and spice.
Way to describe that Cabernet!
You poured the hell out of that wine. Did you notice that sneaky cheese? Perfectly paired.
What's with the sipping? Hammer that!
I love a full-bodied cab.
Way to let it breathe.
Dude, don't waste it.
You cheer for us, we cheer for you. Get your tickets at sjsharks.com. Sharks for life.
I love commercials.
Cheers.
The Twitter response from the San Jose Sharks team said, "We cheer for a full-bodied Cabernet Sauvignon."
Yep. Yep. Yeah, it's
Joe Thornton, being the Las Vegas lover that he is, he's probably drank a lot of full-bodied reds down there in Las Vegas.
Yeah. One of the perks of living in wine country, huh? All right. And then another story I saw this week was Vegas Golden Knights did a wedding proposal and the wedding all in one game. Apparently, one of the front office people for the Vegas Golden Knights had a buddy of his that has. Now we're just talking about. We're not talking about young people getting married here. These are guys that are the man and woman in this marriage. They're in their late 40s, 50s at least. I mean, they're not young people, right? So it's probably not the first go-around for either of these. But anyway, the way it worked out is this guy contacted his buddy with the Golden Knights and arranged for him to be able to propose to his girlfriend at the game. And they did it as part of a promotion where, they come down to the ice and they answer some trivia questions. And it was a name that tune type of a thing where they play the music and then him and his wife would try to answer the question. Well, the last song of the three was Bruno Mars's "Will You Marry Me," right? And that was his cue to get down on his knee and propose to his girlfriend. So, and then after he proposed to her, after she said yes, and the PA guy, confirmed that she in fact said yes, he says, "Not only are you now engaged, you are getting married tonight here in the arena." And then they went into this big whole production. They whisked her off, into a dressing room down below and got her all prepped. They had a dress ready, picked out for her, and the boyfriend is the guy that planned all this ahead of time. So he went out and got her a dress. He went out and got, he got everything done. And she basically went backstage, got her hair done, makeup, dress, everything else. And they came back out in between the second and third period, did the wedding ceremony right up where the, that stage that's up high there at the Vegas Arena where they're doing all the productions that they do.
Yeah.
And they did a wedding ceremony right then and there in between periods. They rushed through it. They got married by Elvis, which is in typical Vegas fashion. It was hilarious to see this. And I included a link to that story also in the show notes, and you should go watch some of the video. It's hilarious to see this couple just completely go from she goes to the game not even being engaged, and she leaves the game married. So what more place than Vegas can you get that done?
That's true.
That is typical Vegas fashion right there, or in Vegas, right up their alley for sure. All right. Let's get back to some more serious stories. Honors milestones. Pekka Rinne made 33 saves for his 300th NHL win last night, and the Vegas Predators defeated the Sharks 7-1 in that game. He became the 34th goaltender in NHL history to reach the 300 mark. He's 300, 164, and 66 in 12 seasons, all with Nashville. So he's a big part of the success there in Nashville. Congratulations to him. Another one, Patrick Eliash's number 26 is going to be retired this weekend, Saturday night against the New York Islanders. He finished his NHL career as the Devils' leader in goals, assists, points, power play goals, and power play points, and game-winning goals. He also ranks first in Stanley Cup playoff goals, assists, points, power play goals, and power play points. So basically he owns just about every meaningful record in New Jersey's history at this point.
Yep.
So I guess that makes him worthy to have his number retired. And speaking of numbers retired, Jean Rattel's number 19 is going to be retired by the Rangers on Sunday in a ceremony before their game against the Red Wings. He had 817 of his 1,267 career points with the Rangers, and a good chunk of those were also with the Bruins, or the other 400 or so were with the Bruins. So I only vaguely remember him as a small child playing for the Bruins.
He played with Vic Hadfield, who was captain of the team way back then, and I think he played on the same line with Vic Hadfield. And if I'm not mistaken, Rod Gilbert, I think that was the line they played on. So, he was quite the player.
And wasn't he part of the goal a game line too? That somebody
that could be what they were called. But
but he was the consummate gentleman player. He never had a fighting major, which is hard to do in the era that he played in the 70s and pretty much from the mid 60s through the early 80s. That was a time where fighting was pretty. It'd be rare to go to an NHL game and not have at least one fight. So.
Oh yeah.
And he never had one. He's the only player in NHL history to score more than 1,200 points and have fewer than 300 penalty minutes in his career. And predictably, he has, I think he has one Lady Byng trophy.
Right.
As a result.
Something I didn't know, Wayne, in reading about him is his terrible struggles that he's had with his back injury.
Yes.
He would not fly with the team. He rode the trains, and of course that was back in an era where you could do that.
Yep.
But he was a longtime scout for the Boston Bruins, all the way up through, not that long ago.
Yep.
And they said he suffered from terrible, excruciating pain when he would fly.
And even riding in cars wasn't comfortable for him either.
Right.
Yep. So he joins. His number will be the 9th number retired by the Rangers, and of course the others are Gilbert, who had number 7, Jakob number 1, Richter, who retired 35, Brian Leach number 2. Harry Howell's number 3, Mark Messier's number 11, and both Andy Bathgate and Adam Graves, who both wore number 9. So that number's been retired twice.
Yeah, that number was retired twice, and both Bathgate and Howell had their number retired on the same night. I actually watched that ceremony. It was really amazing. But they decided to retire. Bathgate was the original number 9, of course, and they decided to retire his jersey as well, even though, of course, Adam Graves wore that jersey, but set records and whatnot.
Yeah.
Long before Andy Bathgate played.
Yep. All right, so that should be a fun night. I'm sure you'll be watching that game.
Yes.
And that ceremony. Yep.
Won't miss it.
All right, now the Vegas Golden Knights set an NHL record for points by a team in its inaugural season when they defeated the Calgary Flames 7-3 at T-Mobile Arena on Tuesday. Golden Knights now have 84 points and pass the 93-94 Florida Panthers, who had 83 points in 84 games. They're 1 point ahead of the Tampa Bay Lightning atop the NHL standings and 3 ahead of the Predators for first in the Western Conference. And they still got 20-some-odd games to go.
It's amazing.
They're going to destroy that record.
Yep.
And a couple of, or just a milestone here, Patrick Kane got his 500th assist in his NHL career on Saturday against the Capitals. And that was a 7-1 win for the Blackhawks. And Barry Trotz coached his 1500th game. He will coach his 1500th game on Saturday against the Blackhawks.
Right. Which is amazing. He is the fifth. He has the 5th most games now. The 5th coach in NHL history to reach the milestone.
Yep.
And I would have thought that quite a few coaches would be on top of him, but that's not the case. He's 5th all time now.
Well, nowadays coaches don't last long enough to coach 1,500 games. So, yeah, he's up there with Scotty Bowman, Al Arbor, Joel Quenneville, and Ken Hitchcock. So,
right.
and it's amazing for a guy who never played professional hockey as a player. You don't see that very much either.
No, not at all.
So, all right, that's all I have for stories. So that leads us to power rankings.
It's power rankings time again. That's right.
Yep.
And I think it's my turn, Wayne.
It is.
It's my turn this week, and I quickly want to get through this. I know we got several stories, and we're running a little long on our podcast, so I'm going to hurriedly do this, but please stop me if you feel like you have a few things you want to say. For the first week this time, Wayne, I did something, but I'm going to wait to get to that. My honorable mention this week is the Colorado Avalanche at 68 points. They are on the outside looking in, but I wouldn't be surprised at all if you see the Colorado Avalanche making the playoffs in the Western Conference. Would not surprise me at all. They played well through the season. I could see them very easily making the playoffs. So let it suffice to say here. Hang on, my battery's running low. Let it suffice to say that they are a good honorable mention. Number 16, the Calgary Flames with 69 points. Number 15 is the Los Angeles Kings. Number 14, the Minnesota Wild. Number 13, the St. Louis Blues. Number 12, the Dallas Stars. Number 11, the Philadelphia Flyers. Number 10, the Anaheim Ducks. And boy, I'm telling you, watch out. There's a team that can put it all together and win the Stanley Cup. I would not be surprised if they're the team that makes it from the West. Wouldn't surprise me. The San Jose Sharks at number 9. Number 8 is the Pittsburgh Penguins. Putting it all together here at the end of the season. They are really on a roll. Number 7, the Washington Capitals. Hanging in there, I would say. Pittsburgh surging, Washington hanging in there, trying to hang on and tooth and nail. Number 6, the Winnipeg Jets. Number 5, playing red-hot hockey. The Toronto Maple Leafs are playing very well right now, 8-2 in their last 10. And they are exciting to watch. Number 4, the Nashville Predators. I believe that's right where they were last week. Number 3 I have is the Tampa Bay Lightning, right where they were last week. And then I switched the number 1s and 2 teams. You had Boston at number 1 last week, and I moved them down to number 2 and moved the Vegas Golden Knights up to number 1. They have the most points of any team in the NHL.
Yep.
They are playing the best hockey, arguably, of any team in the NHL, and they just continue to shock the hockey world with what they're doing. So for the very first time, this is the first time I've ever done it, I put the Vegas Golden Knights as the number 1 team in the NHL in our power rankings.
Yeah, and I think I've put them up there before once or twice as well, so I don't think it's the first time, but yeah. Yeah, that's warranted. I mean, Boston didn't play all that great in their road trip, so yeah, definitely warranted. I don't have trouble with any of those picks at this point. All right, and before we move along, I was checking TSN real quick for any other updated stories since we started recording, and I actually found one, and you probably haven't heard this one yet, but TSN is reporting that the Penguins are probably going to get Brassard from the Senators, and the fact that they're reporting it says it's almost a done deal, but it's not a done deal yet. Darren Dreger tweeted a little earlier today, Brassard to Pittsburgh for a first, goalie Gustafsson, and other cap-related elements. Pierre LeBrun tweeted earlier today, there are still more details to come in this Pittsburgh-Ottawa trade, perhaps a third team involved in some manner. Bob McKenzie tweeted, Pittsburgh-Ottawa deal involving Brassard is ultra-complicated, so much so that Brassard will likely first be traded to a team other than Pittsburgh, then flip to Pittsburgh. Hearing that third team is likely Vegas. Potential for layers of salary retention. So, and they're saying, but because, let's see. Yeah, in a complicated transaction, the Ottawa Senators center Derek Brassard will be heading to the Pittsburgh Penguins, but could be dealt to a third team first. TSN Hockey Insider Darren Dreger reports that the Senators will receive for a package from the Pens, including their 2018 first-round pick, defenseman Ian Cole, and goaltending prospect Philip Gustafsson. The Senators were previously without a draft pick in the first 2 rounds of June's draft as a result of their trade for Matt Duchene in November. But because of cap-related complications, Brassard will likely head to a third team before arriving at his final destination. Bob McKenzie's reporting that the Vegas Golden Knights are likely that third team, and the Knights could retain some of Brassard's salary. Brassard, who carries a $5 million cap hit through next season, had a goal and assist in the Senators' loss to Tampa Bay Lightning on Thursday night. The 30-year-old has 18 goals and 38 points in 58 games with the Senators this season. With the Penguins, Brassard would likely slot in as the team's third-line center behind Crosby and Malkin, filling the role Nick Bonino held for the team's past 2 Stanley Cup runs. More to follow. So probably what's happening is they want to get Brassard in without losing any current roster players, but they probably don't have the cap space to do it. So they've come up with this complicated deal in order to make it happen.
Fascinating how teams do this.
For real.
If TSN's reporting it, Wayne, I mean, wouldn't you say it's going to happen?
Yeah, especially their top 3 guys, Dreger, LeBrun, and McKenzie. These 3 guys are their top guys in terms of, in terms of transactions.
Yeah.
Those guys every one of them have guys on the inside of the NHL teams that can leak stuff. Maybe the GMs themselves, who knows? They never reveal their sources. Good reporters never reveal their sources.
That's right. But you don't even feel like it's a leak coming from these guys.
No, this one sounds like it's going to happen, and they're just
it's an in the know type thing,
Yep.
And it's not damaging information.
So yeah, should this happen? Looks like Penguins will be adding a player in Brassard that without losing any current roster players.
Right.
Which makes them stupid scary again this year. God, I'm sick and tired of Pittsburgh winning. Sorry, Pens fans, but we're tired of Pittsburgh winning every year.
They go through the Ray Shero era, then they bring in Jim Rutherford.
Yep.
And he's starting his own dynasty.
And he's making them even better. Yeah. All right, so with that done, let's go ahead and move on to looking ahead at our teams, and I'll go ahead and get Boston out of the way. They have had a light schedule of late, but they're about to embark on a very busy March. So, but looking ahead at this week, they're at Toronto on the 24th. That's Saturday night. It'll be the Hockey Night in Canada game. With or without Matthews, this is going to be a tough game for Boston because Toronto's trying to catch him. They may actually catch them in terms of points, but Boston has all those games in hand. So But a head-to-head game against them is not going to be easy. And then they're at Buffalo on the 25th. That's on Sunday, so back-to-back game there. That's a potential trap game for the Bruins. They should beat Buffalo, but second half of a back-to-back, you never know. And then they have a day off, and then they're at home against Carolina on the 27th, who's fighting for their playoff lives. So they seem to struggle against Carolina at times, even though they should beat them. And then they've got a home game against Pittsburgh on the 1st, which is always a scary opponent.
Right.
So hoping to get 2 wins out of 4 games in this one, in this week. Carolina, on the other hand, is at home against Pittsburgh tonight. It's Friday night, the 23rd. And then they're at Detroit on the 24th. And then, of course, they're at Boston on the 27th. And then at Philly on the 31st. I'm sorry, 31st. On the 1st of March. And then they're at home against the Devils on the 2nd. So that's the 3rd game in a 4-game set versus the Devils. Needless to say, the game against the Devils is a must-win. Ultimately, Detroit is a must-win for them. And they've got to get a win, at least 1 win, if not 2, against Pittsburgh, Boston, and Philadelphia if they're going to make hay in the playoffs. And the Rangers have a pretty busy week, too, coming up.
It is. I don't know that I'd go out as far as the 3rd you did on with Edmonton, but tonight we start against – I think we'll have a podcast before then.
Yeah.
But tonight they're playing against the Minnesota Wild to close out the season with Minnesota. Then we close out the season with the Detroit Red Wings on Sunday night, and that's John Rattel's night. His jersey will be retired that night. That if you're a Rangers fan, you don't want to miss those. They're very rare, those ceremonies, extremely rare.
Yep.
And they are usually with all the class that you can imagine for a original 16. There'll be people that come into that experience for him. From his playing days, all kinds of stuff. His family will be honored. You don't want to miss that.
I'm surprised they wouldn't have done that one with Boston as the opponent. That's how they usually do those.
Yeah, but they do have an original 16 that they're doing it with the Red Wings.
That is true.
I'm not sure. I'm not sure why that. You're right. You're correct. On that. But then they go on their Western Canada road trip, which is really the last major road trip that we make for the season. We head out to Vancouver, play them Wednesday night at 10 o'clock in Vancouver. And then on Friday night, the 2nd, we're in Calgary, followed by Saturday night. Next Saturday night, I believe we will have had a podcast before then.
Yep.
They'll be playing the Edmonton Oilers.
And that's why I included the Edmonton game, is to show that it is the Western Canada road trip that they're doing next week. Yeah. We'll probably even do the podcast before the Calgary game on the 2nd, because that'll be a late night game. So, and of course, there's lots.
I think you're right. Yeah, and
of course, there's lots and lots of other games around the league that are going to be very intriguing as the playoff races heat up. But the biggest thing coming up this week to look forward to is Trade Deadline Day. That's Monday.
That's right.
That's only 3 days from now as we record this. So. And of course, the start of next week's podcast, we'll probably spend the better part of an hour just hashing over all of the trades that happen between now and then.
That's right.
Because there'll be a lot going on there.
And Wayne, you're the adept Twitter man out between both of us by far.
Yep.
But I know you spent a lot of time on the Twitter wire last year. Yep. And we had a real good trade deadline show, so I'm looking forward to that very much.
Yep. Yeah, and the 3 guys I mentioned earlier from TSN, Drager, LeBrun, and McKenzie, are 3 of the top guys I follow. But for a little comedy, I follow Mike Commodore. And if those of you out there aren't following Mike Commodore yet, and you don't mind a little dirty language in tweets, you should follow him, because his tweets on Trade Deadline Day are hilarious.
Yeah.
He even has his own hashtag with NHL trades.
Right.
And pardon the language, it's hashtag pack your shit. So every one of his tweets, every one of his tweets basically say, so and so hashtag pack your shit. You're headed to Boston, and he usually tweets it out before the trade is announced. So he's using his own little sources. He's got sources with all the teams, and it's hilarious to follow him on Trade Deadline Day. Yeah, unfortunately, I'm going to be working Monday. I'll be following from my phone, but not as closely as I did last year. I happened to have the day off last year, so So I was able to follow it a lot closer, but I will definitely be following it. And if you want some good entertainment on trade deadline day, follow Mike Commodore, because his tweets are funny, and I don't have his Twitter handle up here. Let me see if I can pull it up real quick. Yeah. It's Commie22, COMMIE 22. You want to follow him if you want some good entertainment. And he's he's calling himself the hashtag insider with 2 R's. And he's already tweeting. 3 hours ago, he tweeted, "Folks, FYI, the hashtag insider is spending all day today with his ear to the ground. Expect a lot of action starting tomorrow. Insider has one job this weekend, and that job is working for the people."
There you go. Very good.
And one from 4 hours ago, "Folks, phone is blowing up. 613 area code. Insider made a mistake. The Sens love Brassard, but Eugene Melnyk has no money to spend. Regardless, hashtag pack your shit and get to Winnipeg, Derek." So he called Winnipeg. Winnipeg as but it's not Winnipeg. It turns out it's probably the other one. And here's another one from 4 hours ago from prior to that. Derek Brassard, "The Ottawa Senators don't like you anymore. Hashtag pack your shit and don't forget your jacket. Winnipeg awaits." So
well, maybe Winnipeg for about an hour.
So this is just examples of the stuff that he puts out. It's hilarious to follow. It really is.
Yeah.
And of course, all the Hurricanes fans remember him from the Stanley Cup team. Him in the big bushy afro that he sported that season. He's just a funny guy to follow for sure. All right, let's move on to the Minor League Hockey Minute.
Yes, sir.
And you and I both have Olympic stories.
Yes.
I'm going to let you start because it's a better story than mine. You want to talk about the women's tournament, and I'm just going to simply update everybody on the men's tournament. So
okay.
So go ahead and talk about your women's.
You don't want to go first, or?
Well, yeah, let's do the men's tournament.
Okay.
Because those of you in the United States probably know exactly what you're going to be talking about. So, yeah, let's go ahead and do the men's tournament. Of course, as we left off last week, we were still in round robin play, and ultimately, what ended up happening with the round robin. Of course, in the men's tournament, all 12 teams that are playing in that tournament advance to the elimination round. So the round robin is basically based on seeding. So based on that, what ended up with the seedings at the end of round robin was Sweden getting the number 1 seed, followed by Czech Republic, Russia, Canada, Finland, Slovenia. United States came in at 7th. Switzerland, Germany, Slovakia, Norway, and Korea came in last at 12th. So that brings us to the elimination round, which basically takes those 12 teams and puts them into a bracket. And the first 4 games were the 8 through 12 teams duking it out to get into the final 8. And in that one, you had Switzerland taking on Germany. Germany ended up beating Switzerland 2-1 in that game. Finland took on Korea, beat them 5-2. And there was a very emotional end of the game for the Koreans there, as they put up a good fight against Finland, but ultimately fell to them. United States blew out Slovakia 5-1 in that game, although for a while there it was close. I did watch that game. And then Norway beat Slovenia 2-1, so that sets up a final 8 of Germany versus Sweden, Canada versus Finland, Czech Republic versus U.S., and Russia versus Norway. And in the final 8, we had Germany upsetting Sweden 4-3 in that one. Canada beating Finland 1-0 on that one, depending on who you ask. That was or was not an upset, but it was a close game nonetheless. Czech Republic beat the U.S. 3-2. I watched that game. It went to shootout, which don't get me started on the problems with having a shootout in a elimination situation. I don't agree with it, but you gotta, the Olympics do their thing. They've always done it that way, and that's just the way it goes. So, United States falls to Czechs despite hitting the crossbar with only a minute or 2 left in the third period. I can't remember exactly who did that, and they had plenty of chances in the overtime to beat the Czechs, and ultimately the Czechs ended up winning that game. Even though arguably you could say the U.S. might have outplayed them and may have deserved the win, but the Czechs survive and advance into the semifinal. and the United States is done in the quarterfinal. And then Russia, it wasn't even close, blew out Norway 6-1. So that sets up a Final Four of Germany versus Canada and Russia versus the Czechs. And those games took place last night into today, and the Russians continued to roll. They beat the Czechs 3-0. Again, it appears that Russia is basically on their way to the gold in this one, which we kind of predicted when this whole tournament started, given they've got a better quality of players to pull from without having any NHL players available. And the other game was a complete shock to me. Germany upset Canada 4-3 in that game. So Germany, not Canada. I thought we were going to have a Canada-Russia final, but nope. It's going to be Germany and Russia in the gold medal game. That game is taking place on Sunday, the 25th, at 1:10 p.m. Korea time, which, if I do my math, is 11:10 p.m. Eastern time. So if you want to stay up late, let's see, Saturday night? I think it's Saturday night. Yeah, Saturday night. If you want to stay up late Saturday night, you can watch that gold medal game. And the bronze medal game, I think, takes place right before that game on Saturday night as well. So yeah, big surprise there. But it looks like my prediction there, it's going to end up being Russia for the gold.
And you know, they're the best team.
Yep.
Even Canada, there's what the NHL is not available to them. So Russia was able to pull the best team by far. When they picked their team, you and I drooled over watching games with them. You know.
Yeah.
I mean, we texted back and forth. Look at this, and it's really no contest. They're going to win gold.
Yep. So, but it's been a while since Russia's won gold.
It has.
I don't think they have won gold since NHL players were involved. I think the last time they won the gold was before NHL got involved in the Olympics.
I think you're right.
So, and that asterisk will continue. The Russians have never won gold with NHL players, and they continue to win the gold when they don't have NHL players getting in the way, preventing them from getting it. So, not that I'm bitter or anything, but still. All right. So that is all I had for the Olympic update. And I know you wanted to talk about the women's tournament.
Yeah. And my article's not real long. Comes off of ABC News. I was very excited by this. What a great game. And the United States women's hockey team finally gets the gold medal in a dramatic final against their arch bitter rival, Canada. So without further ado, the U.S. women's hockey team finally returned to the top of the Olympic podium with a dramatic heart-stopping display against rival Canada. The USA won in a nail-biting shootout 20 years after they last won gold in 1998, when women's hockey made its debut as an Olympic sport. It's going to be a part of our legacy, gushed Hillary Knight, who scored the first goal of the game. The things we have gone through together on and off the ice, the characters, the group of women we have in this room, it's quite incredible. The Lamoureux twins played key roles in the victory. Jocelyn Lamoureux Davidson scored the game winner in a shootout with a dramatic circus shot of a goal in the 6th round of shots.
That was a sick move. I saw that.
Yep. To put the USA ahead, U.S. goalie Matty Rooney, born the year before the U.S. last won its gold, made the pressure-filled final save, stopping Canada's Megan Acosta to give USA the win they have coveted. Jocelyn needed her sisters and line mates' magic on the ice to get that chance for glory. It's been a dream come true to do this, said Jocelyn. We have pushed each other since we were little, and our brothers have kicked our butts along the way. To contribute the way we did today, we have prepared for this and what we have gone through the last month. The U.S. lost to Canada in the 2014 Olympic finals in Sochi when they blew a 2-goal lead in the final minutes and lost in sudden death overtime. The final on Thursday couldn't have been more evenly played. The U.S. outshot their rivals 41-31 over the course of the 3 regulation periods and 1 overtime. But the Canadians stepped it up on the defensive end, deflecting shots one after the other to constantly thwart the U.S. attack. The U.S. broke Canada's streak of 4 straight Olympic gold medals in women's hockey. The U.S. players celebrated on the ice, draped in the American flag, as they gained a measure of redemption for their heartbreaking overtime loss 4 years ago. And Wayne, the story ends there, but I did watch the post-game ceremony. And you'll recall, we talked about this earlier, in the World Juniors Championship when Sweden finished second to Canada.
Yep.
The one Swedish player received his silver medal and took it off and threw it into the stands. And we both said, well, you know, he didn't do that because his heart was broken. He just, you know, we both attributed it to Semi losing his mind for a minute and just doing something that wasn't really cool.
Yep.
But I watched this, and I watched it closely. I watched that, and I do not remember her name, but they put the silver medal on her. And this is the Olympic Committee, folks who have put together these games. I'm sure there are a lot of women who could have played in this young lady's shoes and would have loved to have played in her shoes. And it's just very poor sportsmanship, I thought, for her to take that silver medal off from around her neck, and the camera caught it in full view. To me, it was just disrespectful. And I really, my wife and I watched that, and we were like, you know, there's a lot of young ladies who would like to be in her position. It may have been a very bitter defeat for Canada. They really may have really hated it, may have pissed them off, but you just don't do that.
Yep.
I mean, you take losing. I'm suffering right now. My team, and of course I've been through terrible times for years with the Rangers, but I'm not going to sit here and kick tires. You know what I'm saying?
Yep.
You don't do that for whatever the reason is, and I was just disheartened by that. That's the one thing that I didn't write about in this story, but wanted to just discuss with you for a minute and just tell you my feelings right off the bat.
Yeah, and the way the Olympics work is, you know, you don't win a silver medal. You kind of, like the bronze medal, you win it.
Right.
There's a bronze medal game. The winner of that game gets the bronze. The loser of that game gets nothing. The silver medal is just given to the team that loses in the championship game. So right off the bat, you know, you lost in the championship. You're not, you know, you're disappointed because you wanted the gold, you wanted to win, and the silver is like a consolation prize for that matter. But the fact of the matter is, in women's hockey, it is pretty much a two-horse race at this point. It always has been. Except for a big upset a couple of years ago when the Americans lost in the semifinal. It's been pretty much America and Canada in the championship game in just about every international tournament, including the Olympics. And since '98, which is the last time USA won the gold, it's been US Canada all the way. But in recent years, in the last 3 to 4 years, it's been pretty much all USA.
Right.
In the international tournaments, except for the Olympics. And the Olympics was the one tournament that Canada still reigned supreme. And, I know they're disappointed for losing. And Canada really, really hates losing to the U.S. in hockey.
Right.
Because it's the one sport where they can compete with us at a world-class level. You know, other sports, you know, if you take at least the sports that are popular here in the U.S., basketball, baseball, football, you know, if they were to put a national team together to play Canada, we would win everything all the time in those other sports. But hockey is the one that they can compete with us in, and they really hate to lose, especially to us. So that's why you see that much bitterness amongst those players, and you know those players hate each other. It's curious though that a lot of the Canadian players come down here to the U.S. and play college hockey.
Right.
In the U.S., and then they go back and play for the Canadians in the World Tournaments. So the best, I guess that pretty much says that the college hockey here in the U.S. is probably the best women's hockey there is outside of the international tournaments. But anyway, I digress. But yeah, there's a time and place to do that. And on the medal stand is not the place to be taking the medal off and doing whatever with it. You just leave it on until the end. Just, you know, sit there and you know, the right thing to do is to sit there and you know, quietly allow the gold medal winning team to have their moment, and then you can, if you want to put the the medal away in a drawer, sell it, give it away, whatever you want. Once you're off the ice, that's your prerogative, but don't do it in front of the cameras.
I agree, and it just, it looked like just a intense, bitter experience. I mean, the person who draped the medal around her neck, it just looked like she was pissed at her. I don't know. It was really classless, very poor taste. And if it were in reverse, I don't know. I heard it said from one person, they ought not, because of that, they ought to just not give away a gold medal. And the other teams, hey, you don't get a medal. You didn't win.
Or do the medal ceremony for the because the medal ceremony is supposed to include all three teams. In a team sport like this, maybe they should change the medal ceremony and have the gold medal winning team have their flag moment and their national anthem moment, while the losing team goes off the ice and does their thing. And then just award them the medals off the ice. Maybe that's a better way to do it.
Right.
In the locker room where the cameras aren't around. Yep. Maybe there's something to that too. Because, in a team sport like that, a silver medal is a very bitter pill to swallow, right. Especially when in your mind, you're favored to win it all. So, although going into this tournament, the USA was favored all along. But, it is what it is. But congratulations anyway to the U.S. women for finally winning that gold medal after how many years? 20 years of trying.
20-year wait, yep.
All right. Well, that's let's move on to the College Hockey Minute real quick. And there's really not a whole lot to talk about here because I haven't been paying attention that much. With Olympic hockey and NHL hockey going on, I haven't had a lot of time for college hockey in the last week. But I did look back, and University of Maine had a split weekend. They got an overtime win at UNH on the 14th and a 5-0 loss at home versus number 19 BC on the 17th. Very disappointed in that one there. I felt that they should be able to skate with BC a little bit better than that. Because now this week, BC is now number 20, so they're barely hanging on in the rankings this week. And speaking of BC, the Maine team finishes their regular season with 2 games at BC Friday and Saturday night. So, Maine's got their work cut out for them, hoping for a split there. But Maine is currently sitting in 6th in Hockey East and are 25th in the pairwise going into this weekend. And speaking of this weekend is the last week of regular season play in all conferences except for the NCHC. NCHC has one more weekend of regular season play. And that's because that conference is a little bit smaller. They don't need as much time to do their conference tournaments. So they play one more week of regular season, and then their conference tournament starts next week or the week after next. Whereas all the other conferences, the conference tournaments start next week. So I'll be paying a lot more attention now that we're into conference tournament play. And in just about every conference in the country, every team makes the conference tournament. So this is the point. If a team is not in that top 16 in the pairwise, this is the point where they can win their way in by starting with, you got to go into your conference tournament and if not go deep, if not win the whole thing, you've got to go very deep into your conference tournament to get any NCAA love. And all the conferences have a automatic bid for any team that wins the conference tournament. So in the case of Maine, where they're sitting 25th, they're not going to get into that top 16. They're at a point now where they're going to have to win their way in. So the games this weekend really don't mean much, but starting next weekend, if Maine wants to make the NCAA tournament, they're going to have to win some games. They're going to have to probably win the Hockey East tournament. They're that far back, especially where Hockey East is probably only going to get 2, maybe 3 teams in the national tournament this year because of how strong the West is right now. So with that in mind, let's take a look at that top 16 of the pairwise. And got to find the right link here. Here it is. All right. At number 16 is Northern Michigan. Number 15 is Western Michigan. Number 14 is Omaha. Number 13 is North Dakota. Number 12, Northeastern. Number 11 is Michigan. Number 8, tied 3-way, is Minnesota Duluth, Providence, and Minnesota. Number 7 is Clarkson. Number 6 is Ohio State. And a 2-way tie for 4th is Denver and Minnesota State. Number 2 in a 2-way tie is Cornell and Notre Dame. And number 1 this week is St. Cloud State. Now, if you look at this, out of that top 16 teams, I count only 4 teams that are considered Eastern teams. Everybody else is in the West. So we've seen it go the other way in years past, but this year it seems like the West reigns supreme in terms of college hockey at this point.
Very interesting.
Yep.
And if you look at the Big Ten, Wayne, they have, of course, Michigan, Minnesota, Ohio State,
Penn State,
who's
17th in the pairwise,
right, and Notre Dame.
Yep.
So that's 5 of.
And Wisconsin is 23rd. They're the worst Big Ten team. 5
of the 7 Big Ten teams. The only teams that aren't in it are Wisconsin, as you mentioned, and Michigan State.
Yep. So, yeah, very, very, very strong conference, even though it's only, I think it's 7 teams now, with Notre Dame being in there. All right, that's it for college hockey for the week. So let's move on to our picks of the week, and then we'll end the show. And you and I both came up with the same one, and
and this is going to be fun, Wayne, because we've never done this before.
Yep.
Of all of our weeks, we've always found something to differ. But this week, we couldn't do that. I think what we found is just an incredible story.
Yep.
And I thought about you. I got to say, I thought about you because it's pond hockey related.
Yes, it is.
I got to tell our listeners this. We go to this game down in Charlotte. Amazing game. The Charlotte Checkers last weekend played the Syracuse Crunch, Tampa Bay Lightning's team. We get there, Wayne and I get there an hour and a half before the game, and they're lining the cars in the spaces. And here we look around, oh, that car's from Syracuse, that car's from New York, that car. And we could not believe there were thousands of people that made the trip down from Syracuse to watch the Checkers play. And when we got out of the car, my good friend, Mr. Wayne Halley, had his Maine pond hockey pullover on, and some guy saw it and said, "Oh, I like that, man." So there was some hockey fans there, let me tell you.
Yep.
But I digressed, but I had to throw that out there. When I saw this article, and I know it's the same one you saw, when I saw pond hockey involved,
yep,
it pulled at me and I got it. So, but go ahead, Wayne.
Yeah, so we both came up with the same story. We usually get on Skype moments before we start recording and compare notes and you mentioned your play of the week or your pick of the week is this story, and I mentioned, hey, that's my story too. So we decided rather than do 2 separate stories that we're just going to tag team this one story because it is a good one. And it's an article we found on NHL.com. And the headline is Weidman joins kids for impromptu pickup pond hockey game in Ottawa. So the article reads as follows. Some lucky youngsters got an unexpected guest during their game of shinny on Sunday. Chris Weidman, defenseman for the Ottawa Senators, surprised some players at the Dovercourt Recreation Center in Ottawa by joining their game of pickup hockey. Weidman, who's recovering from a torn hamstring, recently began skating and announced on Twitter that he'd be stopping by the rink to play pickup hockey with anyone who was there. Jim Goddard was among the many who saw Weidman's tweet and took his 8-year-old son, Jacob, to the rink to play. Weidman met Jacob and signed his jersey. Then he played hockey with him and others for a few hours, making a memory for the young Senators fan. Meeting a player and then playing hockey with him made his year, Goddard told NHL.com. We'll talk about it for a while for sure. Jacob wasn't the only kid to get a photo with Weidman, who has not played since November 16th because of the leg injury. Many took to Twitter to share their own photos in appreciation of Weidman's time. And this article is full of pictures of Weidman posing with little kids and other pictures of him playing with some of the other kids that were there. It's basically your typical outdoor rink that very similar to what I played on with the wooden boards and the chain link fence above the boards because these parks and rec can't afford glass over the boards, so they put up chain link fence above the boards. They just had a good time. He just went to the rink to skate with a bunch of kids, and the fact that he announced it on Twitter just made it that much extra special that he was able to round up a bunch of kids to go play hockey with. So
yeah, I tell you I am one, and I've told you this, but Wayne, you know this about me. Twitter scares me. It's powerful. It's powerful. It's very powerful. And so if I'm going to tweet on Twitter, if I'm going to write a tweet or reply or retweet something, I'm risk averse. I don't know. I don't use it as much. I follow it. I read all my tweets, and I tweet back, but I'm not as big into it simply because it really can be taken the wrong way sometimes.
Yep.
But I have the tweets. I went to where Chris Weidman actually wrote the original tweet, and he received over 100, maybe hundreds, perhaps in the hundreds of responses to his original tweet. But his original tweet went, "Anyone want to play some outdoor hockey on the rink at Dovercourt? I'll be out there in about 1 hour." And these are some of the responses he received from some of the people in Ottawa. A gentleman named Robert Montlet. "You're a class act, Chris. You gave some kids a great experience. Well done." Another lady, Kelly Chase, said, "This was a great thing to do. I'm sure you made some fans for life." Another lady, Joshua Jackson. "Man, what an awesome thing you did there, Chris. Bet all those young players were just blown away. I know my son would have loved it too, but we're up in Pembroke, and that's a little bit of a drive." and the fourth one, this is really good. Obviously, the guy's name is Greg D., and he's a father. He said, "Is this for real? My son is just finishing practice and is going to flip if he gets to play shinny with a Sens player. Thanks for the heads up. You're a class act." And Weidman responded to him and said, "It's for real. Bring him out." So, the power of Twitter and the response right away is really something. But if you go down that Twitter feed, all of the responses and stuff, he's got photos from a bunch of people who took pictures when he went out to Dovercourt and played at that outdoor rink.
Yep.
Just a great and Wayne, he's hurt. He can't play right now. He's recovering from an injury, and he takes the time. They said he played out there for hours that afternoon.
Yep.
And I just it makes me what a class guy to do something like that and make so these kids that play with him, a lot of them, they'll never forget that. They will never forget what he did.
Nope.
So it's just my hat's off to Chris Weidman for doing that. What a touching story, and truly reaching down to the roots of hockey on the pond out there playing. I really thought that was one of the best stories I've read all year.
Yep. No, it was a good story, and that's why we both gravitated to it, obviously. Yeah. So yeah, it was continuing the pond hockey theme that we've had over the past several weeks. Of course, there's always pond hockey tournaments going on through the month of February into about the first week, maybe 2 of March, before the lakes start getting a little too warm to be skating on anyway, up in the northern part of the country. But it's one of the few things I miss about living up north is having the opportunity to just go get my skates, stick, and gloves and just head to the local outdoor rink, put them on, and just go have a skate for a couple of hours. I can't do that down here in the Carolinas because the outdoor rinks don't exist unless your skates have wheels on them anyway. There's a couple of places that I know of you can go if you've got skates with wheels, but that's not nearly as fun as putting on the real blades and getting out there in the cold and having a good time. So that's pretty much half the reason why I drove 14 hours north to go play on a frozen lake is I missed that feeling and that experience, and we went back up there to get a taste of it again. So yeah, I mean it's all I grew up playing on an outdoor rink. It's what I've always done growing up, and it's fun once in a while to get back to those roots. So, and those of you who've done it before know exactly what I'm talking about. Yeah. All right, so that is it on a very long episode. We've been going now for just a little over 2 hours now, so we're going to go ahead and wrap things up for the week.
Very good.
And next week, obviously, we will have a lot of transactions to talk about because trade deadline day is going to happen on Monday, and we'll probably be recording again. Seems to be Thursday or Friday now is our days of the week that we're recording. Wednesday just doesn't seem to work for either one of us anymore. So So yeah, stay tuned next week. We'll have all the details of all of the transactions that went down over the weekend. And we'll probably start taking a look ahead at the playoffs now that all the new teams, or a bunch of new teams, will have a new look to them. So we'll be able to get a better sense for who's going to make the playoffs and who won't after the transactions of this weekend. So stay tuned for that. So unless you have anything else, we're going to go ahead and kill it.
I enjoyed this podcast very much, Wayne. Good talking with you. And we had a great time in Charlotte. Certainly enjoyed the hockey game there together. So look forward to working with you next week on this trade deadline info.
Will do. All right. So until then, we'll talk to you later. Have a good week, Steve.
You too. Same to you, Wayne.
Well, there you have it. If you like today's show, please show us your support by subscribing to it using your favorite podcatcher program or app. The Hockey Nuts podcast can be found on major podcast search engines like Apple Podcasts and Google Play Music. Just search for the term The Hockey Nuts in whatever app you use to get podcasts. We love listener involvement, and there are a few ways you can get involved in the show. You can email us at feedback@thehockeynuts.com, or you can leave us a voicemail in our mailbox at 919-960-1718. You can also tweet us. I'm at WayneHalley9. Steve is at SBall504Man. Also be sure to visit our website at thehockeynuts.com. There you can see all of our past episodes archived, and you can listen to the show through your web browser on that site. As always, links and stories that we mentioned in the show are available in the show notes for this episode. In addition to our website, you can also watch us record the show each week live on YouTube. We generally record on either Wednesdays, Thursdays, or Friday nights, depending on our work schedule. You can find our YouTube channel at thehockeynuts.com/YouTube. Thank you for listening, and we'll see you next week.